Hello, welcome to Solar Oregon's Comparing Solar Quotes webinar. My name's Abigail Jager. I'm a program manager at Solar Oregon. This is a recurring workshop that Solar Oregon has been delivering to home and business owners across our state for over a year now. We work to provide you as a consumer with the information you need to make good, informed choices as you explore solar and/or battery storage. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today, we're going to build on the basics of how to go solar and focus on how to read and compare different solar quotes. We'll start by taking a look at the fundamentals of a solar system and how you can expect to see these represented on a quote. Next, we'll take a look at the different elements of a quote and what details to look out for. After that, we'll walk through an example quote to see what it all looks like in practice. We'll wrap up by talking about solar contractor selection if you have not already reached out and received quotes. We're here to get your questions answered, so we'll have a Q&A session after the presentation as well. While I go through the next few housekeeping slides, I'm also going to go ahead and start some polls. This is just so we can know a little bit about who's attending our webinars, which is really helpful for us when we are applying for grants and looking for other funding. So as I said, we're going to be having a extended Q&A session after the presentation. You can put all your questions into the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen that's currently highlighted on the screen above me here. At the end of the presentation, we'll be going through all those questions at once. So don't feel like you need to wait and for the end of the presentation, start putting your questions in. You can put them in at any time. And thank you so much for figuring out that first poll. We're going to go ahead and launch the next poll now. So as I said, I'm a program manager with Solar Oregon. Solar Oregon is a 501c3 nonprofit that has worked to encourage solar and storage adoption throughout Oregon since 1979. We do this by providing reliable and impartial consumer education like this workshop, working to build the clean energy community, and performing outreach and some policy advocacy in partnership with other organizations. We also facilitate solar tours, zero energy showcases, expert panel discussions on a range of topics related to solar, and solarized campaigns, which are regionally focused short-term events where you can access solar discounts by going solar with your neighbors. You can learn more about what events we have coming up at our website, solaroregon.org, or by following us on social media. Thank you so much for filling out that next poll. I'm going to end that poll and also put some resources in the chat. These are just some general resources about solar, and I will reference some of them throughout the presentation. And I'm going to go ahead and launch the last slide, or launch the last poll. This workshop is supported by Energy Trust of Oregon. Energy Trust is an independent nonprofit established in 2002 that provides resources to help enable customers of the investor-owned utilities in our state to use energy efficiently and gain access to renewable energy. They offer key incentives for solar installation and battery storage. Energy Trust coordinates a network of trade ally contractors who are able to offer these incentives, and they support community events such as this one. Thank you, Energy Trust, for your continued support. For more information, you can visit energytrust.org, and there's also a link in the chat. Thank you so much for filling out that poll. And without further ado, we will continue on. If you haven't yet connected with a solar contractor to get quotes, there's an extremely convenient and easy tool on Energy Trust website that you can use to request free custom bids from highly rated trade ally contractors in your area. And I'll be talking more about what a trade ally contractor is further along in the presentation. This online form takes only 3 to 5 minutes to complete, and you can make sure you're getting connected with the solar trade ally contractors that can best serve your solar and storage needs. There's also a link in the chat, as well as you can scan the QR code that is currently on your screen. So now, without further delay, let's jump into the main presentation. We'll start by reviewing system components. If you would like a deeper dive into the basics of solar and storage, please consider joining our next How to Go Solar and Solar Plus Storage workshop that's happening in just a few days. So here's a diagram of a typical home solar system. You can see the photovoltaic or PV panel here on the left, I believe, right above my head. And you can see the house in the middle of the diagram. Sunlight strikes the solar panel labeled here as a photovoltaic or PV panel and generates a volt of electricity. That volt of electricity then flows down into a special device that gets installed with your solar panels called an inverter or microinverter. This converts the DC electricity or direct current electricity generated by the solar panel into usable alternating current or AC electricity for your home. The AC electricity that's generated, it then flows into your home electric panel to be used to turn on your lights, charge your devices, charge an electric vehicle, and everything we use power for. If at any given point in time your solar panels are generating more power than your home is using, such as while you're at work, maybe no one's at home, but it's a nice sunny day out. Then that excess power that is being generated flows out to your utility meter. When you get a solar system installed on your home, you get a fancy new utility meter called a bidirectional utility meter. That is able to track the electricity flow in both directions. So it tracks both the power you are exporting to the grid and the power you are importing to your home from the grid. This is called a grid-tied system, as you are still connected to the grid, as opposed to an off-grid system where you would be fully disconnected. So as I said, if your solar panels are generating more power than your home is needing at any given point in time, that excess electric power flows out through your bidirectional utility meter to the utility grid to be used by your friends and neighbors. And you would gain credits that you can then see on your utility bill, and that is how solar can help save you money. And similarly, if at any given point in time, such as at night when it's dark and your solar panels are not generating any power, but you still need some, you're able to pull power from the grid and use that to help power your home. So that is the basic solar system. As you can see, it's pretty simple. There's really only 4 or 5 big elements of it, and that makes it highly modular. And it's one of the reasons solar systems are so low maintenance and can work in so many situations. So as I was saying, your new bidirectional utility mirror tracks the power in both directions, and that's how your solar is able to help save you money. So I'm going to talk about what that looks like by walking through 2 examples. First, a typical sunny summer month. So let's imagine it was pretty sunny today so far. At least I think it's getting cloudier now. We might get some rain, but if we're thinking a few months from now, it's going to be nice and sunny all the time, all day long. We can see that our solar power in this orange bar on the left is producing so much power. It's doing a ton of work. It's producing a ton of power, and the amount of power that your home needs is only about half that blue bar. That means all that excess power you're generating, represented by the green arrow, is flowing out to the utility grid, and you're gaining credit for them. They're called net metering credits. And so you're building those up all summer long. Net metering credits roll over from month to month, so that's what allows that to happen. And then if we think about a day like today, it's cold, it's overcast. It was a little bit sunny this morning, so our solar panels did produce some amount of electricity. However, in total, it's only producing about half as much as we need. So we're having to draw that other bit from the grid, represented by this red arrow here. That you are then drawing power from the grid that you then need to pay for. However, you are able to build up net metering credits all summer long, and those are able to offset the amount of power you're needing to purchase from the grid in the winter months. Net metering credits roll over from month to month. However, they do not roll over from year to year. The net metering year begins and ends right around April 1st, so depending on your billing cycle. And so any excess credits you have at that time are forfeited and donated to the grid. Unfortunately, your power company will not cut you a check for that excess amount. So that is the typical system. And it's important to know that even if you are able to fully offset your solar consumption through this, your bill still will not be zero. That's due to some base charges and taxes and fees that come from just being connected to the grid in the first place. And that usually works out to be about $20 per month. However, still compared to Oregon's average bill, about $70 per month, solar offers a major savings over time. And while grid electricity is cheaper in the Northwest, thanks to the amount of hydropower they have, we have rates to rise about 2 to 6% each year. So, as I said, solar is highly modular and customizable, and residential solar systems vary widely in size. System size is measured in a unit called kilowatts, or kW, and the average residential size in Oregon is around 8 kilowatts. But what determines your system size? By far the biggest constraint is how much electricity you consume. This is because, as mentioned earlier, net metering credits do not roll over from year to year. That means that to get the most value out of your system, your contractor will design to meet but not exceed your estimated annual consumption. Your contractor will ask for your past electric bills to determine your future needs. If you're expecting to install appliances or make life changes that will significantly increase or decrease your expected consumption, it's very important you let your contractor know. Other factors that can limit your system size are the available roof space, budget, or limitations placed by an HOA or condo association. Um, However, it is important to remember that in Oregon, HOAs can't tell you can't go solar. They can only impose restrictions on how you go solar. You have the legal right to petition your HOA to waive restrictions that you believe to be infringing on your right to go solar. And if you're having any issues with that, you can reach out to us with the email that is currently in the chat. When it comes to comparing different solar quotes, you're going to want to know the differences in how much power your system is producing. Some simple metrics you can use to compare are how many watts of capacity are in your system, calculating the cost per watt of your system by dividing your total system price by total number of watts. For example, if you have an 8 kilowatt system, you divide the cost to install your system by 8,000 watts. And however, it's important to note that this is not the only metric you should use. You want to be aware of the quality of your parts and not just the cheapest panel possible to try and lower your cost per watt, as this could lead to you having issues in your system later down the line if things start breaking earlier than expected. You also want to know what the solar production for both peak and summer and winter, and what is the estimated yearly solar production or the kilowatt hours per year. You want to know if there are any additional charges that you are missing or not aware of. Now, before we look at elements in a quote, we will want to recap the reasons why both solar and battery storage costs can vary so widely. This is important to remember as you're looking at quotes, as there can be a really large range of differences based on what the solar contractor thinks is the best fit for your home. So the cost of solar can depend on the size of the system, if you need to do any re-roofing, if you need to complete any structural analysis or structural reinforcement, and if you need any electrical upgrades. The cost of battery storage can depend on if you're installing solar and storage at the same time versus afterwards, how far you're installing it from the electric panel, if you're installing an essential loads panel, and how many batteries you are installing. In addition, the availability of incentives can affect costs of both solar and storage. And for these reasons and more, it is impossible to quote the price of solar without having information about your site. Please keep this in mind while we look at some example quotes. So now we're going to move on to some elements in a quote. When reviewing your system quote, you should review what is included in your system price. Some items that should be included are all equipment, including but not limited to the panels themselves, inverters, any monitoring system, and you want to check if that comes with any sort of subscription costs, the racking equipment, and wiring. You also want to review the estimated installation time and labor costs, and it's important to keep in mind that installation time can vary depending on permitting, material availability, and system design. It's also important to review what warranties are included and what they cover. Consider if any maintenance plan is included in the quote and if there are any costs to maintain your system. Solar is low maintenance, but not no maintenance. A big price difference can come down to your system design and what brands are present in your system. A great topic to discuss with your solar installer is how the brands present in your system work together. This is also a great chance to read honor reviews of brands and make sure you're getting the system you want. If you're installing the latest and newest technology, that can increase cost. For example, solar roof tiles cost more than traditional solar panels. And so you want to be aware of what you're getting and what trade-offs exist. Both microinverters and inverters work great, but one may have been recommended over the other based on your needs of your system. Discuss why a string inverter or microinverter was chosen and what price implications there are with your solar installer. Other items that might be in the quote are add-ons such as batteries, EV chargers, meter or electrical upgrades, electrical panel upgrades, structural upgrades if they're needed, any re-roofing that might need to be done, and whether or not you need a critter guard. For your solar system, you will have at least 2 warranties, one for the parts within the system, the panels, the inverter or microinverter, etc., and one from your solar installer that covers the workmanship. Warranties are around 20 to 25 years for the panels and 10 to 15 years for the inverter and batteries. This can vary depending on system design and brands used because equipment warranties vary by equipment and manufacturer. Solar installers often provide warranties on their labor, services, and the install itself. Industry standard for workmanship warranties is 5 to 10 years and usually includes labor and equipment from a faulty installation. Working with a reputable contractor is important. Be sure to ask what warranties are for your system and what is covered under the warranty. Consider what warranties and guarantees are included or excluded when comparing different quotes. Energy Trust Trade Allies provide at least a 2-year system warranty that covers all labor for any repairs resulting from defects in equipment or contractor workmanship. The Energy Trust Solar Within Reach Income Qualify Program has a 7-year system workmanship warranty for eligible projects. So here's some key elements of a quote. We can see in this example that this customer has what inverter they have, which is a Solar Edge 10 kilowatt HD wave inverter, and it includes optimizers and a wireless monitoring included, though the homeowner in this case is responsible for providing a Wi-Fi network. We can also see the modules that have been selected, the Canadian Solar Hiku CS3N Black, and the amount of power they are expected to generate, as well as the materials warranty and performance guarantee of 25 years. We can also see the mounting system being used and that this customer selected to also include an EV charger. When it comes to paying for solar, it is a major financial decision, and as with any major financial decision, we suggest consulting with a professional before you make one, and no, we are not one here today. It's important to pay attention to the payment structure of your system. How much is the monthly payment and how much interest are you paying through your payment structure? And be sure to pay close attention to the timelines for payment and if there are any penalties for prepayment. Because solar and battery storage can entail a large upfront cost, many homeowners utilize financing. Some homeowners obtain a loan through a bank for which they have an existing relationship, but some banks do not provide loan products specifically tailored to solar. Your contractor may partner with a credit union or third-party broker that offers a package that is geared towards solar. As with any major financial decision, make sure you carefully assess your financing options. Because, as I said, solar and battery storage are large upfront costs. You want to be aware of the different financing options available, including loans, which could be offered by your solar contractor or a bank or a local credit union, leases, where you are basically renting out the space of your home and then buying back the power generated from your solar panels, or power purchase agreements, which work very similarly. And you want to be aware of any available incentives and credits that can help lower your cost. If you're considering, recently, Energy Trust of Oregon launched their Smart E-Loan program in partnership with Solar Trade Allies Inclusive Property Capital, a 501c3 clean energy financing platform. ETO e-Smart Loans can be used to install solar plus storage, solar plus battery storage if you already have a solar system, and an electric vehicle if you already have a solar or battery system on your home, or you're combining those projects, and enabling upgrades or repairs up to 25% of the loan amount. Here are some of the benefits of the Smart E-loans. They are transparent with a clearly stated interest rate without any other hidden fees. There are no fee or prepayment penalties. They are unsecured, so no need for collateral. Low FICO credit scores as low as 580 are accepted. They have flexible terms of 5, 7, 10, 12, and up to 20 years. The rates are as low as 6.99%, and there's a very easy application process. Smart E, there's a skip a pay option and flexibility if you contact them. The reach of the Smart E lending program is, however, limited to PGE and Pacific Power areas. And so if you're not covered by one of those utilities, you may want to reach out to your local bank or credit union to see what other options they have. And if you'd like more information about this program, you can scan the QR code currently on the screen or check out the link in the chat. When it comes to looking at different solar loans, there are some questions you want to make sure you are asking, such as what is the interest rate? Excuse me, are there any dealer fees? If there's an early payoff penalty, whether it is a fixed or variable loan, how many times you can rematurize the loan, refinancing options, and who services the loan. Now, I've talked a lot about incentives, and the current biggest one being offered is the Energy Trust of Oregon Standard Solar Incentive. The incentive amount will depend on the size of your system and your utility provider. Currently, the Energy Trust incentive for PGE customers is $2,500 for solar and up to and $400 per kilowatt hour up to $5,000 for paired storage systems. And for Pacific Power customers, it's that same $2,500 for solar, but $320 per kilowatt hour up to $4,000 for storage. And these are the incentive offers as of when I last checked yesterday. However, incentive offers are subject to funding availability and may change. In order to get these incentives, the only thing you as a customer have to do is work with an Energy Trust of Oregon trade ally contractor. The trade ally contractor will apply for these incentives on your behalf, ensure that your system meets the necessary criteria and design requirements for these incentives, and will just take the final amount for the incentives as they can be applied to your system off your final bill. If in addition to the standard solar incentive, Energy Trust also offers an income qualified incentive called Solar Within Reach. This incentive functions very similarly, where you get a certain amount for installed solar and a certain amount per kilowatt hour of installed battery storage. You're able to access this incentive by working with a trade ally contractor and being within the income level for the program. Currently, the income cutoff is 120. Annual income maximum is 128,564 for a family of 4. So it is very generous and it is worth looking into to see if you may qualify. Now we've gone through some of the elements of a quote and some incentives. I'm going to now walk through an example quote. Here are 2 different breakdowns of how the cost breakdown might look on your quote. So we can see that the system size for this system is 9.88 kilowatts for one quote, and someone else proposed a slightly larger system of 10.92. This is a great way to, if you were in a situation like this, would be a great chance and a great time to ask your contractor why they recommended the number of panels and to see the math of what they were recommending. It's important to look at the price per watt of your system. So again, if your system is an 8 kilowatt system that costs $32,000, you divide 32,000 by 8,000. In this example, your price per watt would be $4. As a reminder, incentives can vary depending on utility provider and state budget. And so we can see here for this customer, their contractor actually broke out that price per watt and is just under $4 at 3.88, which is about average here in Oregon. Here's another example of how the system pricing may break down. So we can see there are different incentives that each of these customers were able to access, with the customer on the left being able to access that Solar Within Reach incentive with that $7,200. And they were also able to receive the federal tax credit that was sunsetted last year. And so their total cost is just under $20,000. And the customer on the right was not able to access the income qualified Energy Trust incentive. They were able to access a previous incentive offered by the Oregon Department of Energy, and as well as that federal tax credit, rating the net system cost to $26,474. And you can also see the annual savings that their solar contractor broke out. So it's just an example of what different prices and quotes can look like. We can also see the materials breakdown. So as we looked at earlier, we can see the differences in what panels are being selected and what technology would be present in your system. And again, it's a great chance to ask your contractor why they selected certain materials, what their experience are with those materials, and to look online and talk to other customers about their experience with those materials. So now with all these, it's important to look at how your system is getting financing. Your solar contractor may supply financing directly on your quote. That's great, and likely due to a installer having a direct relationship with the financing company. Other quotes might be completely missing those details, and you need to compare a second quote from a separate organization. You might be responsible for acquiring that quote yourself. You can see here for this customer, they're requesting a loan amount of $27,566 over 15 years at an 8% interest rate, making their monthly loan payment $268 or remortgaged monthly loan payment $188. So now that I've gone through all that, I'm going to talk about how to find a contractor. Once you've compared the hard practical items of your solar quote, which is just what we just went over, you can also think about things that come down to more of your individual preferences. This includes things like the company culture, the size and structure of the business, and how long the contractor has been in business. There's no wrong way to answer any of these questions. Some people prefer a small local company that is just getting started, while others prefer large companies that work nationwide. It comes down to your individual preferences and desires. As with any major financial decision, it's a great idea to look up reviews, request references, and see if you can find any testimonials. You can always ask your contractor for references, and it's a great idea to do so, but we also recommend looking up reviews on Google, Yelp, or other online review sites. In addition to what we already covered, you may also want your solar contractor to hold certain credentials. Credentials can be values-based, such as being a B Corp, or they can be about meeting certain requirements, such as being an Energy Trust of Oregon trade ally, which can also help save you money and allows you to know your contractor has been vetted. And as previously mentioned, you can use the link in the chat to use the custom bid form to connect with Energy Trust Solar Trade Allies, and we recommend getting at least 3 quotes to compare if you're able. The Energy Trust Solar Bid form, which is linked to the chat, will connect you with up to 3 contractors that work in your area. So now I'm going to start going through those Q&A questions. So if you have any questions, please feel free to put them into the Q&A. Someone asked if I have any info on Southwest Washington incentives. They are with the Clark Utilities. So unfortunately, I am not familiar with the incentives in Southwest Washington. I know that some of Energy Trust incentives do actually extend into the Vancouver metro area as they do cover some of that area of just how close Vancouver and Portland are. However, I recommend reaching out to Solar Washington or the WASEIA, WASEIA, that would be your local industry association, to see if they have any information they can share with you. We also got a question asking if there's an order of magnitude for cost of taking down old PV rooftops system for roof maintenance before doing an upgrade. So we usually recommend that you make sure your roof has 15 to 20 years of life left on it before installing PV. This is just because there is an added cost with removing the PV panels and reinstalling them. This is usually around $5,000 to $10,000, and your panels can get damaged in the process. Based on your specific situation, I recommend talking to a solar contractor and seeing if they have any advice based on your specifics. Without knowing more, I can't tell you exactly what the order of magnitude for cost would be, and if it's better to wait to re-roof or to combine those into one project, and whether or not your solar panels are worth putting back up on your roof or not. Those are all the questions in the chat right now, but please keep putting them in while people are thinking of questions. I'm going to go ahead and launch the final poll. And I want to thank everyone for attending the workshop today. If you have any other questions, please put them into the Q&A box, or you can also email us at info@solaroregon.org. I'm still going to be hanging out for a little bit, at least until this poll is done, but I'm here to get your questions answered. But if you are feeling like you've gotten the information you came for, I hope you have a great rest of your day.